Chess is all about learning from your mistakes, and today you're going to learn from mine. This is a real game that Fun Master Mike got into when I was a kid. Now I was white. Take a look at the start of the game. So far, I have moved pieces out on 3 of my first 4 moves. The knight, the bishop, and also castling. But look at Black's army. He has moved pawns on 3 of the first 4 moves. 1, 2, 3. That means that white is what we call ahead in development. My pieces are getting out quicker than his. It also means that my king is much faster to castling. There's something that I want you to do, chess kids, when you are ahead in development. I want you to open the center. The way to open the center is to trade off some pawns. In this position, I didn't play the best move. I was too afraid of my pawn getting captured, so I moved my rook to e1 to defend the pawn. Now, it wasn't a horrible move, but it gave Black a chance to develop his bishop and get his king castled. Let's take a look at what I should have done. Do you see a way for white to offer a trade of pawns, especially in the middle of the chessboard? Well, I'm sure you got this one right. Pawn on d2 to d4 was the way to go. Sometimes we call this a lever. A lever is like prying open your opponent's position. It's a pawn trade that is meant to open up some files. And here, no matter what Black does, the center of the board is going to open up. He could take this pawn, and I could take it back with my knight or my queen, and the d file is becoming a little bit more open. Now if I play rook to e1 later on and then play e5, I will be trading off and opening up even more center files. Also, back in this position, he could have decided to capture this pawn. Now, would that have helped him? No, I don't think so. There's actually an abundance of good moves here. I could trade this pawn, because when he takes back, I even have a very cool sacrifice. The king is trying to guard too many things. I could play bishop takes f7, and if the king takes back, whoops, I win his queen to the top of the board. So that was a case where opening the d file turned out pretty well. Let's go back. In this position, I could have also just moved my rook. And then if his knight runs out of the way, I'm getting my pawn back, I'm threatening this guy 3 times, and when I make a whole bunch of captures, his king is going to be stuck in the middle. For instance, capture, capture. I could take his queen, which is a very good move. Let's open up the e file. And if he tries to block with something, I could even play a move like queen to e2, and now I'm putting pressure on the pinned piece. Here, if he castles, he actually loses his bishop. So, if you are castled and your opponent is not, and you're better developed, try to open the center with pawn trades. Next example. Who is better developed here? Well, clearly it's Black. Black has 1 piece off the back row, and he's already castled. Look at White's king. He's a long way away from being able to castle to either direction. So if you're Black, a really interesting idea would be to play a move like pawn to d5. Notice Black is trying to open you up with a lever. Now, do you want to get opened up if your king's in the middle? Nope, you certainly don't. We just saw what happened if you open up the e-file. Here it is again. If you try to open up the chessboard, but your king's in the middle, if you trade pawns, you're in big trouble. The e-file is wide open, and you're not going to be able to make it castled. You could play a move like knight f3, but Black will certainly check you, probably with his rook. And although you can block, now he's got a pin on the bishop, and we all know what to do by now. We put PP on the PP. Bishop to a6, and your bishop is in big trouble. Queen e7 is coming if Black needs it, and that bishop is going down. You could castle, but it's going to cost you a lot of material. So, after Black plays pawn to d5, why don't you pause your videos and figure out a smarter response that White should have played. Well, if opening the center is the right thing to do when your opponent is not castled, if you're the one not castled, you want to close the center. Pawn to e5. Now, Black is probably still a little bit better, but at least you're not going to have your king opened up like a can of sardines on the e-file. This next position is one of my favorite ones. Here, if you're Black, you might be really tempted to capture a pawn. I've seen a lot of kids go down after the move knight takes e4. Now, it looks like a brilliant move. This knight is pinned. The problem with knight takes e4 is that White will calmly castle. He got his king out of the middle of the chessboard, and that e-file is wide open. So here, white tricked you into capturing a pawn that you probably should not have captured. If you decide to castle now, notice this knight's not pinned, you'll actually lose your knight. But if you take this knight, he'll take back, and now it's time to stop being greedy, because if you keep taking stuff, white has a bunch of good moves here. One interesting move is bishop to a3. Uh-oh, now you can never castle because there's a seatbelt coming across your king. Once white starts putting pieces on the e-file, black is going down, down, down. Can you find a safer move for black? One that saves the bishop and also helps safeguard the king? The best try for black is bishop to e7. Although he's still not out of the woods, white's going to start putting pieces on the e-file and playing more opening moves like pawn to d5, and because black's not castled, he's got to be super careful the next couple of moves. Let's take a look at one more example. This is another real game that Funmaster Meg played a couple of years ago. Here, it doesn't look like much is going on, but black wasn't too careful and played the careless knight to f5. Now that looks like an okay move, but black forgot the golden rule. When your opponent is castled and you are not, you want to close the position. Black should have played pawn to e6 before white got a chance to do so. Here, Funmaster Mike played the sacrifice pawn to e6. Black didn't see it coming. Now black decided to capture, but then I hit him with knight to f4, and there's all kinds of problems and weaknesses for black. If black castles, knight takes e6 is suddenly a fork of the rook and the queen. So black decided instead to play the move king to d7, but I didn't even take this pawn. I just played the move knight to f3, and on the next couple of moves, rook e1, queen e2, and you can see I opened up that e-file, his king never got castled, and my pieces broke through for a very quick checkmate. Yippee! To recap, chess kids, when you are castled and when you're better developed, that's when you want to open the board by trading pawns. If you're behind in development, or if your king is stuck in the center, keep the board closed, keep those pawns locked up.